Hi everyone, my name's Mike and welcome to the channel. Today this bike we're going to test is a little bit different because up till now we've been concentrating mainly on British bikes and Italian bikes. But today we're going a bit further afield and we're looking across the pond at a bike from the US. And it's the archetypal bike from the US. It's a Harley Davidson, and it's a shovel head Electra Glide, so it's an FLH from 1974. It's a black one, so Electra Glide in black. Incredible looking thing, wonderful, as you've probably seen from the pictures so far. So this has been loaned to us by a good friend of ours, Russ Campbell. Now Russ runs a bike shop in a place called Bretton in North Wales, but it's only probably about 4 or 5 miles out of Chester, so it's near the Airbus factory, if you know where that is. So yeah, we've got quite a lot coming up. I think the next bike we're going to be doing is a CB750 from about 1975, I think that is. Plus we've got the bike meet happening on the 8th, which I'm going to video. So if you're in the northwest of England, please come along, turn up, bring your bike, bring your classic or your not so classic if you don't have one. We've already got quite a few bikes that are going to be coming. We've got a guy who races at the Isle of Man. He's bringing a Rob North Trident and a 350 classic Honda. We've got a guy who's bringing a YZF 500, which is a race bike, but it's a replica of it. I think it's based on an RD 500, but that'll be really interesting. We've got people from Norton Owners Club, we've got Ducati Bevel, we've got Velocets, we've got of course the bikes that you've seen in the videos that we've done so far. So it'll be a great day, so come along and hopefully the weather will be like this and we'll have a great time. So yeah, as I said, we've got plenty more coming along. We're going to try and do a few more Japanese bikes. Love to do some two strokes. We know a guy who has some 3-cylinder Kawasaki's, so that would be fantastic if we could feature one of his bikes. So yeah, there you go. So if you like what you're seeing, please like and subscribe, the usual, and just stick with us and we'll try and keep pumping out good interesting content for you guys. And yeah, thank you very much for your support so far, and on with the show. So normally at this point in the video, I get to ride the bike and I film it and you get my commentary. But I rode it on the day, but for various reasons we couldn't do the on-board filming on that day. And then very soon after that, Ross sold the bike. So, you know, it's bad news for us, but it's great news for Ross, who obviously, though, you know, that's how he makes his living. So, you know, that's the nature of it. So, what I can do is give you my impressions of what it was like to ride. So, what was it like to ride? And it was, in a word, it was an event. It's so different to the bikes that we have been doing. You know, the British and the Italian bikes that we have been doing. It's almost like going back in time. It's a completely different sort of bike. You know, it's got the big pulled back stance and the low revving engine and the footboards and the heel and toe gear change, and you lift your foot up to do the brakes and things, and also riding it through the British countryside. It was really kind of, I won't say out of its element, because it was great to ride, but it was a unique experience. It went all right, you know. It's got 60 horsepower, which for a bike of that era, it's not quick, but it's you've got enough to move down the road, and the brakes work, not brilliantly, but they work okay. The handling, it handles all right. It's got quite a low centre of gravity, but one thing is it's lacking a bit in ground clearance. So you chuck it into a corner and it's bump scrape, bump scrape. But you don't ride it like that. It's an old lady, and it's a cruising bike. And what it did feel like is like we were riding through North Wales and northwest England, that area where we are. So it's lots of country lanes and little villages. But I was riding along on it, and I was thinking, I'm in Bryce Canyon. That's how it makes you feel. And it's great. And I think Richard mentions that later on. That's the way you feel on it. It's just that sort of bike. So I really enjoyed it. It's got a fantastic soundtrack. It's got the typical Harley potato soundtrack, and it was great. Dave did a lot of riding on the day, and I was following him on one of his motor gutsies, and we were doing the filming, and it was great watching him pull into these English villages, and everyone would turn around and it's like, what's this alien spaceship doing from another land with this dog exhaust sound. Yeah, it's great. I really enjoyed it. I think we all enjoyed taking the bike out for the day, so it's a fantastic thing. So I've always been a lover of Harleys, but I've never fully understood the range. Like I've heard the names, very evocative names like Knucklehead, Panhead, Shovel, Evo, Twin Cam, and I've never fully understood, because growing up in the UK, very rarely saw Harleys. I think in the 70s, I think I saw a Sportster once in Chester where I grew up, and it was like, I almost jumped out my skin. It's like, there's a Harley Davidson. Of course, there's lots more these days. You see lots of Harleys around, but in the 70s, when I was growing up, in the 80s, you very rarely saw a Harley. So I never really got to know them a lot, but I've always loved them. They've always been the sort of bike that I really enjoyed. In fact, Dave owned a Sportster, which was a 1200 XR, but it was one from the race series, because there was a race series in the UK where the all the top level racers would take an XR out, but they were modified, and they had Harris modifications on the chassis and Arrow exhaust, so quite a beast. And Dave bought one of these, and I had a ride on it and loved it. Just so much torque, and it was fantastic bike. But anyway, so yeah, so to understand it better, I did a bit of research, and the names like Knucklehead, Panhead, Shovel, etc. really refer to the top of the engine. So a knucklehead, at the top of the cylinders, where the valve gear is, it's just shaped like the knuckle on your hand. It's polished aluminium, and it just looks like a knuckle. And a panhead, which just has on top of the cylinders, it has on top of the same thing that covers the valve gear, two oval pans that sit there. And the panhead is I suppose the bike you think of when you think of like 60s choppers. The film Easy Rider, Peter Fonda. The Captain America bike was a panhead, and also the bike that Dennis Hopper rode, I've forgotten the name of that was a panhead. So if you asked a kid to draw a picture of a Harley Davidson, they'd probably draw long forks and a panhead engine. So it's what in the UK we think of as a Harley is usually a panhead. So the shovel head got its name because there's a plate that covers where the valve gear is, and there's two pins. I think it's the rocker pins going through, and it's shaped, so I've read, like a broad snow shovel. So we don't get snow shovels in the UK here, so I never quite can see. I look at it and go, shovel? Don't quite get it. But I'm no expert. I'd love input from our friends, you know, over the pond to put me right. If I'm getting any of this stuff wrong, you know, I'm stepping into areas that you guys must know inside out. So I apologise now, but you know, I'm just a guy who really likes Harleys, and I'm trying to educate myself. So the shovel, and I'll concentrate on the shovel because that's what's in the bike that we took out today. So the knucklehead was built from 1936 to 1947. The pan was from 1948 to 1965, and then the shovel was from 1968 to 1984. So the shovel, what they did was they took the pan head and they kept the bottom end and they kept the cast iron barrels, and they fitted the heads off a Sportster. So they were aluminium high compression heads, and this gave an extra 10 brake horsepower. So that was from 50 of the pan up to 60 of the shovel. They called that the power pack, I believe. So these bikes were 74 cubic inch, which is 1206 cc, I believe. So the shovel engine had a few issues. Putting the high compression heads on this engine caused it to run quite hot. There were some oil circulation issues. I believe that when the bike was switched off, the oil would pool in the cylinder head area and it would leak through into the combustion chamber. So when you went to start it was difficult to start, and when you did it was very oily, you know, big smoky startup. And there were also some wet sumping issues, but you know, again, I'm talking as a layman. I don't understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys. So what Harley did to mitigate this, and what made it even worse for the poor old shovel was in the 70s, the fuel crisis, the quality of the fuel went down, and also they started putting lead into the fuel. So the shovel didn't really like this. It caused it to run hotter, and with it running hotter, it would cause the gaskets to break down, and then when the gaskets broke down, then the bikes would leak oil. So the shovel has got a reputation for, you know, it's got a bit of a bad reputation, but it's you know, less to do with design and more to do with, you know, events that happen, but nonetheless. So Harley, in I think it was 78, and again correct me if I'm wrong, they bored it out to 80 cubic inch, which is 1340. They fitted modified cylinder heads, and they fitted lighter pistons and electronic ignition. And the benefit of that was it ran a lot better on the lower grade fuel. So as you know, it was no more power, so it stayed at 60 brake horsepower, but it would just run a lot better at that. So talking about the range, the bike range, and we're talking about the touring bikes here, so for want of a better word, the glides. In 1948, Harley introduced the Hydroglide, and it was called the Hydroglide because it had telescopic hydraulic front forks. It had a rigid rear end, but it had the sprung saddle that takes some of the harshness out of the ride. But I would imagine it's still fairly bouncy ride. So in 1958, which is 10 years later, they introduced the Duo Glide, which had hydraulic rear suspension, which, you know, cured a lot of the issues with the rough riding rear end on it. So that stayed until 1965, when the Duo Glide was fitted with the electric start. That became the Electra Glide, and the Electra Glide, I suppose, is the one that is most remembered. Everyone knows an Electra Glide. So Hydroglide, the Duoglide, and the first generation, which was 1965 only, Electra Glide, were all panheads. Then in 1966, the shovel engine was fitted to the Electra Glide. And then in 1972, a front disc brake was added. And that brings us to the bike that we've been taking out today, which is a 1974 Electra Glide with the shovel engine with front disc on it. So we've just stopped for lunch after riding the Harley, and yeah. So what do you reckon? We've had a few. Hasn't gone as well as we thought.
A few little teething problems.
But we won't discuss those because they'll soon get sorted.
Yeah.
But what did you think of the bike? So for a 1974.
73 I think it is. Anyway, doesn't really matter. They didn't really change much between 71 or whatever and 1980 odd. So what I think it's I came up with a word. It's not the word I invented. It's called atavistic, and it means something that pertains to something ancient or ancestral.
Yes.
And for me, it is. It's like the very roots of petrol-driven transport, two-wheel transport. You know, it's an iron horse.
Yeah. It does feel like that.
Yeah.
When you're riding it, it is. It's almost. It is like it's got a life.
Yeah.
But it's primordial.
Yeah.
Primordial.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's got that heartbeat, and you can see when you look at a 1930s Harley or a 1940s Harley, you can see the lineage, not just in the massive V-twin, but in the way it looks. The balanced mudguards, the footboard, the huge bars. It's like you said, Rich, it makes perfect sense when you sit on it. The comfort. It's almost this riding position.
Yeah,
it is,
absolutely.
You know, feet forward. You can imagine going across the Great Plains on it.
Yeah.
Going around Cheshire winding country lanes, slightly different matter.
Scrape.
Bump scrape. Yeah.
But
white knuckles trying to brake.
So you just ride it accordingly.
You do. You've got plenty of engine braking.
You know, it's a classic bike, and you just ride it accordingly, and it's a gentle experience.
It is a gentle
Even though it's rough tough and sounds like we come to bite heads off chickens, it's actually a very gentle experience.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because Harley's image prior, well, with the Hydra Glide, and then they put an start on it, and the panhead became the shovel head, and you got the Electra Glide. It was sort of pre-Harley selling a lifestyle, because with the Super Glide, when Willie G. Davison came up with the Super Glide, it sports the front end and basically stripped down Electra Glide.
Yeah.
That was the start of Harley selling a lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know, whether it was badass or pretend badass or whatever. But one of those, if you were a serious tourer back in the 60s and early 70s, that would have been a logical choice if you had the money.
Yeah.
And I dug out a bike magazine test, didn't I? I was telling you guys, this is an English mag from 1975. And in the mag there's a Norton Commando test, a Honda 750 test, and they're around 1,200 quid. Expensive super bikes of the time. End of the line for the Norton, just getting into gear for the Honda. And the Harley in the UK was, how much did I say it was?
£3,000.
3,300 quid. So getting on for 2.5 times, easily 2.5 times.
And that's why you never saw it.
You never saw them. When I was 16, 17 years old, I used to literally have to go to London, 160 miles away. I used to go to Freddie Wars on the King's Road, still there, round the corner, much bigger. Sells lots of t-shirts now. Used to have 5 Harleys in this tiny showroom. And it was, and I used to go there to Gorp and the Sportsters, the Super Glides and the Electra Glides, because you never saw them on the way. They literally stopped traffic.
Yeah. Cool, so how did you enjoy riding?
It's a challenge, partly because we had a few issues with it, slightly slippy clutch, which I think you'll hear in the video when I pull away, and a couple of minor misfires, and it's a little bit noisy for me. But I loved the riding position.
I like the gear change.
I like the gear change. I don't like finding neutral, but it was a heel and toe gear change, and it was it was fun. And it's that, like you said, Mike, you ride it within its limits.
Yeah.
It had a natural pace and rhythm around 60 mile an hour. It just felt like it would go forever. You got lovely heavy climbing.
I mean, I agree with you, Dave. It would have been a lot nicer. And I know it's almost compulsory for Harley riders to have round brakes on their bikes, but those bikes are really nice.
Yeah,
and I personally, I wouldn't be able to relax riding it because I'd be concerned.
Because you're such a
outstanding member of society.
You're a standing member.
We'll cut that bit.
Yeah. But it's so funny once you're honest and you're riding, it doesn't sound so loud because it's all behind you.
Yeah, it is. You're escaping the noise.
When you're riding a bat out.
But I loved all the little features on it. The casket headlamp with the alloy. Formed.
It looks quality. Doesn't it?
It does. I mean, some of the pieces weren't that good quality. I think it was Kelsey Hayes made the discs, great discs, and they were notorious when new, and that was when they were in their infancy and people didn't expect that much. So you've got to ride it well within its limits, But some of the pieces, the panniers are lovely, the seat, the sprung seat, and some of the lovely features on it. It was it was an expensive bike, and and the quality wasn't always there. The AMF got, a bad press, but they did invest in Harley, and they did keep them going till the management buyout.
I mean, one thing we all commented on, wasn't it, was it's a heavy bike. I mean, Dave, I don't know how heavy it is, but it must be well over 300 kilos, I guess.
Yeah, 600
but, I'm not a big guy, but I thought, God, this is going to be the pole stand. But actually, it felt really light because the centre of gravity is so low.
Yeah, when you ride, it doesn't feel too bad.
Nice low centre of gravity.
Isn't it typical? Whenever we do a film, that's life.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
But a lovely day, lovely Cheshire Lanes, nice village, and foibles apart, really enjoyed riding what is one of the few iconic vehicles. Genuinely, they're not retros, they're not throwbacks. That line goes from 1903 right through to the current day, and that sort of epitomises.
And you summed it up. It's an iron horse, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an iron horse. Yeah.
And make perfect sense. Chugging along an interstate in America at 55 miles an hour. Purr along. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. And thanks
very much to Russell and Brett Motorcycles. We're going to be having a chat with Russ. I'll pop that in the video.
Yeah. And probably have some more bikes off in the future.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, if he allows us.
Very good. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.
Okay, so this is Ross, who is the owner of Breton Motorcycles, and he's the guy that was kind enough to let us ride the shovel. So Ross, do you want to just give us a bit of history about your business and what you do and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, we've been on and off for about 40 years now. Started off Sportster Motorcycles till Harley copyrighted the name Sportster and took it off us. That was a bugbear. So Breton Motorcycles came into fruition in 2005. Built up slowly, and now we're chock-a-block. Bit of sunshine's come out after Easter, and it's non-stop now. So
yeah, it's hard enough getting 5 minutes to film this.
It is. I mean, we worked all the way through COVID because we were classed as essential workers because we were doing the MOT. So that brought us a bit of credibility and a bit more custom. But yeah, we're doing everything bikers running a bike shop basically.
So what sort of services do you offer?
Anything from MOTs to servicing, repairs, specialised stuff, predominantly Harley parts, new and used. I claim to have the largest selection of used parts in the UK, which anyone can contest. Second-hand bikes, we've always got about 50 bikes in stock, ranging from mopeds right the way up to Harleys and chops and customs. Everyone's welcome, get a brew. And as I say, we ride the bikes, or we all ride bikes ourselves, so we know exactly what's required. The only thing we lack really is time to clean the bike, so shall we say rough and ready.
It's a real motorbike shop, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, there used to be a shop in Crewe called Two Wheelers, which I loved because it was like this. You'd have to squeeze through to look at the bikes in the showroom, and if you wanted one, you had to wheel it out and take as it was.
Yeah.
So we cater for the lads doing their own bikes, or even getting them prepped up, and we've got a couple of long-term rebuilds now up to concours. So yeah,
I've known Ross since the 60s. We kind of grew up together, didn't we? And
we did.
we got into bikes at the same time, which was like really early on, and it's you've continued with it.
Yeah,
Ross's garage used to be like this when he was a kid.
Yeah, well, you had railway sets, and I had model motorbikes. But,
that's right.
yeah, I mean, it's a passion turned into a business. The steelworks at Brumbo closed down. That gave me the opportunity. What am I going to do? And kick-started the bike shop. We've had hard times. You know, we've struggled, but it's been up and up and up.
Yeah. So where are you located if people want to find you?
Right, we're right by the British Airbus factory, British Aerospace Airbus factory in Broughton, Chester. CH40BY. We're open 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday. Sundays we were going to open during the summer, but on reflection we need a day off. So we do appointments for Sunday specific stuff. If someone wants to collect a bike or look at a bike, we can meet people here, so that's not too much of an issue. But we're amenable. We can be open late, open early. We've got a website which when we get time we can update, so apologies for that. It's like the showroom, we can't always price the bikes up, and of course bikes have gone through the roof at the moment since COVID.
Yeah,
people are using them as an investment, which is good because the bank's giving 0 interest. So the motorbikes, and of course there's no bikes coming through from Europe now. They're all classed as similar situation to America. So it's reduced the amount of bikes coming in from Europe, so it's made the bikes here worth more money.
Good. Nice one. All right. Thanks for that, Ross. And I believe you've made the kind offer of letting us have a ride of some other bikes that
yes,
you've got.
whatever
so
we can accommodate you with, Mike. Yeah, no problem.
Now the weather's getting a bit nicer, I might be knocking on your door a bit more.
Yes, even got out on my bike yesterday myself. So
really?
There you go.
All right. Well, thanks for that, Ross.
You're welcome.
Fantastic, and I've no doubt we'll be seeing a lot more of you in upcoming videos. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Mike. Cheers, mate.
It's electric.
Chuck it.